focus for today is self-nourishment and resilience. It's about building the resilience to come out of this crisis as we ease from lockdown and move into what the politicians like to call the new normal, and are able to do that from a place of inner strength. So, I mean, this is like teaching grandma to suck eggs, because you know that your yoga practice creates your inner resource and your inner strength, and helps you live your life more skillfully, but also at this time helps you to support those around you more effectively, if you have that place of coming from somewhere where you feel really nourished and resilient. So to support that, and just to give you an idea of what we're going to do, we've got this 2-hour session. So the last half hour is going to be interactive, where you will be able to ask questions in the chat, which I'll answer, or we'll throw the floor open and you can unmute and make contributions. And during that time, you might want to reflect on how the pandemic has been for you, maybe how you've coped with teaching online, what the future is for live yoga classes and online yoga classes. So we could have a bit of a professional discussion around that, or anything else that you want to talk about. Before I start, I just wanted to share a couple of resources, and also tell you a little bit about what I do now since stepping down as chair. So I became a director of the Yoga and Healthcare Alliance while I was chair, and that's why I was invited onto the board to deliver the mission to bring yoga into healthcare. And it was always a slight problem for us in BWY that we were always linked to Sport England, and still are. And Sport England provides a lot of lottery funding, which is really helping some of the classes that we're running on our side in Yoga and Healthcare Alliance at the moment. So I'm not doing that down, but yoga kind of sits more comfortably within health, wellness and well-being than it does in sport, as you know. And that's why we've been ignored really in terms of major funding awards all these years. So Yoga and Healthcare Alliance now sitting in the health sector, and we've just become a registered charity like BWY. And we had a formal partnership agreement. I'm hoping going forwards that the organisations will really work closely together. Gillian, the vice chair, has attended all our meetings in Parliament and in London as we kind of talk to ministers and policy makers and the NHS. And if you don't know anything about this, I'm not going to use this as a sales pitch for anything, but there's a website you can look at afterwards. I put the tag in. I'm just going to very quickly screen share, because it always helps me to see these things visually. I think tell me if someone give me a thumbs up. Are you seeing the Yoga and Healthcare Alliance website? Yes. Okay, so that's it. You've got the link there, and it's all about us. And also, if you're interested in doing our professional training, it's a professional development course for experienced yoga teachers. And one of the reasons they partnered up with BWY, and I encouraged it, was that because of the nature of our teacher training, you are really well skilled and equipped to modify practices for NHS patients. So if you want to talk about more about that at the end, we can. Also wanted to draw attention, has that now flicked to Health Flicks? Someone give me a thumbs up. Caroline, you're right at the top of the list. Are you seeing Health Flicks now? Yes. A kind of mountain scene, yeah. So on YouTube, if you haven't discovered this, I was amazed to see when I logged on, we're over 2,000 subscribers now. So Heather Mason, who set up Yoga and Healthcare Alliance at the beginning of lockdown, set up Health Flicks, which was meant to be and is a resource that people could use during lockdown for self-development and self-care. And there are now over 100, I think, talks, all about 45 minutes long, talks, yoga classes, performances, all sorts of things, and some really great things in there. But within this channel, this is a channel on YouTube, there is one talk which I say every yoga teacher should watch. and I put his name in the chat, Satbir Khalsa Singh. So he is one of our directors on Yoga and Healthcare Alliance. He's also an assistant professor at Harvard Medical School. He's the world's leading yoga researcher. He edited The Practice and Principles of Yoga and Healthcare, which is a summary of 300 randomized control trials into yoga. Sorry, I'll just turn my microphone around in case that's not very clear. And in 45 minutes, he will summarize the scientific evidence base for yoga. So I would urge you to, when you've got a little bit of time, and there's no, I believe there's no reason why you couldn't log that as home study CPD, watching that an hour of home study if you watch Satbir's talk, and it will really help you to, when you're sharing the benefits of yoga with your students, to come from a firm grounding of science rather than, you know, some of the rather fanciful claims that we see in yoga books. And then last one, you know about this one, but this is the one I promote. It's a free course, it's an hour, and it covers fundamental alignments. And I created it because of all the IST days that I did, where I just found quite a lot of misunderstanding about some of the fundamental alignments in yoga. So this is my attempt to clarify those in an hour, and some of you have done that. And then, yeah, this looks like
yeah, okay, we've got to, I've got to just...
someone's unmuted. I'll find them in a sec.
Has Dad told me that?
There's quite a few people unmuted, Paul.
Yeah, okay, I'll go through them in a sec. If you're unmuted, if you could mute, that'd be great. Yeah, you're muted, Caroline, don't worry. You're the only one I can see at the moment. This one looks expensive, but if you type in breathing 90, you get this for £12. And that is also, if you're interested in the anatomy of breath work and teaching breath work, that might interest you. Okay, I just want to get that in. So looking down, anybody else need to be muted, and then we can get started. Lovely, perfect. So in this session on self-nourishment and resilience, we're going to begin our practice in a chair. Now, if that is hard for you to do, firstly, just think, is that just a mental rut that I'm in, or is it that you've just spent all week sitting in the chair and you're desperate to get down on the mat? So if it's the latter, do this first section on the mat. I don't want to deprive you of that. We're going to be doing some breathing work for around about 10 minutes, and then we're going to start the class in a chair. Again, it's something that we built into the Yoga and Healthcare Alliance protocol for NHS patients, but it's actually a way that I really like to teach now if I'm teaching in a studio that has enough chairs for students, because it's a very inclusive environment if everybody starts in a chair. And if you think about attracting people who are wheelchair users, that's going to make them feel a lot more welcome if they see everybody starting in a chair. You're not setting out at the beginning of your class with this emphasis on the difference between able-bodied and those who need support. And then we're going to move into, once we've explored the breath a little bit, and I've talked a tiny bit about the anatomy of the breath, we're going to do some Samavritti breathing ratios, so equal inhale and exhale, but no retentions at all. And one of those Samavritti ratios, the 6-6 ratio, breathing in for 6 seconds, breathing out for 6 seconds. You may have heard, if you logged in early, you may have heard the chime track playing in the background. That is a track we use when teaching, and it chimes every 6 seconds. So we use that to cue the breath. So I'm going to give you an opportunity to try that as well. The fact is that for people like you and I who've been doing a lot of yoga practice for many years, a 6-6 rhythm is not that slow. So it can often be frustrating to limit the breath in a pranayama practice to 6-6 when you could do a longer breath. But if you think about beginner students and NHS patients, then actually reaching 6-6 is their challenge. So it works better for them. But however, when we're doing some breath and movement, you'll find that the 6-6 rhythm works really well. So we'll have a go at doing it, using it in the breathing practice, but also using it in the posture work. All the posture work is going to be really simple, because I'm going to ask you, well, you don't have to turn your video camera off, but I'm not going to be watching you at all during the class. And again, this might be for professional discussion at the end. You know, there are different models, but certainly in this session where there's so many of you, it would be impossible for me to keep an eye on you. So the way that I've ensured safety and done my risk assessment is that I'm not going to teach you anything that has any complex alignment or that puts any vulnerable areas of the body at risk. So all the practices are going to be simple and gentle. Okay, I think that is all I needed to say. So we're going to begin. By the way, I'm going to be using this breathing ball, which I use a lot when teaching yoga, and people always ask me where these come from. You can get them in your local Wilco store. I think they call it an expansion ball there, but it's very useful, particularly for students who are more visual learners than auditory learners, to both see the breath and hear your instruction. So we'll be using this a little bit as well. So if you'd like to just close your eyes, or if you don't like to close your eyes, just have them forward with a soft gaze onto the floor in front of you, and then allow the spine to come into a naturally upright position. And just think about the position of the head, the heart and the hips, and try to align those structures, which for many people just means slightly drawing in the chin, lengthening the back of the neck, and bringing the crown of the head back over the center of the shoulders. It's a key move really to release neck and shoulder muscles for the majority of the students we teach who have a forward, I'm exaggerating it, but have a forward head in relation to the spine, and it leads to an overemphasized lordosis in the neck, and then it leads to bigger kyphosis in the thoracic spine. So it really, over time, has a dramatically detrimental effect on posture. So just finding the natural length of the spine, softening the shoulders down, eyes are closed, and taking a moment to really notice how you're feeling right now. Bringing into your awareness any areas of the body that you particularly need to take care of. And even though this is going to be a gentle practice, if anything, if you're invited to do anything that doesn't feel right for you, or you know is not right for you, then please use your skills, your yoga skills, to modify the practice accordingly. And of course, everything is going to be slow, mindful, and breath-led. So move your attention now from the physical body, from your awareness of how your mind is right now, and begin to shift it to the breath, and simply tuning in to your natural rhythm of breath. Breathing in and out through the nose unless the nose is blocked. And without exerting too much control, and certainly no strain, just inviting the breath to become a little slower and a little fuller. But particularly at this stage, focusing on smoothness and flow. And I'm not going to specifically instruct Ujjayi breath or teach Ujjayi breath, but in the breathing, in the Samavritti ratio breathing, and in your practice, if you like to practice while using an Ujjayi breath, please feel free to do that. And then we're going to do our 5 minutes of anatomy of the breath. So if you'd like to open your eyes, if you still have them closed, and place the palms on the abdomen and think about breathing into the lower third of the lungs and allowing the abdomen to move out and soften as you breathe in and to draw back as you breathe out. And it could be a natural drawing back, or you might just subtly exaggerate that movement by feeling that you're slightly drawing in the tummy on the exhale and releasing it on the inhale. And as we do this, we are inviting the diaphragm, the dome-shaped main muscle of breathing, which comes surprisingly high up under the lower rib cage. You can count up to 5 ribs up from the bottom rib, and you're still just reaching the top of the diaphragm there. And as you breathe in, that muscle is contracting and flattening and pushing down into the abdomen and causing the abdomen to move out. And as you exhale, it's going back up into its dome shape and the abdomen is moving in. So this is a really relaxed, soft belly, lower lung breath using the main muscle of breathing, which is what most people are using 90% of the time. It's what you'd be using when you're asleep. You're not going to be using the rest of your breathing muscles at that point. So it's the key muscle of breathing. So this is one form of the diaphragmatic breath. It's actually more suited. It's very good sitting up as a practice to release stress, as stress gets held a lot through the enteric nervous system, through the tummy, and is experienced as that tightening in the guts when we're under a lot of stress. It's really suitable for lying down and for restorative breathing practices. So we're going to stick with the diaphragmatic breath just for a moment longer, but we're going to change the mechanics of it a little bit simply by creating a gentle sense of corseting the lower abdominals. So feel as if you're just drawing in and creating some stillness and steadiness in this part of your abdomen. So as you breathe in and out, the belly is not going to move forwards in and out anymore. The diaphragm is still going to be pushing down and doing its contraction, but this time it's going to meet the resistance of this held structure of the soft tissues of the abdomen. And because it can't push down, instead it's going to push out the floating ribs. So the lower ribs are just linked with costal cartilage rather than being jointed onto the spine directly. So they're really movable. So we're going to feel that now. So rather than having the hands here, just move them around to the side and up a little. If you need to find your floating ribs, just use your fingertips there. And then keeping this area gently drawn in, a really light sense of bandha through the center of the body. And now breathing still into the lower lungs and feeling these lower ribs moving in and out. And most people get that fairly quickly. Sometimes if you're too strong with this, if you really knot up, because we're actually only using layer 4 in terms of the depth moving into the body, the deepest abdominal muscle, and the one internal obliques, next one out a little bit to stabilize this area. But we don't want the big rectus muscle to tighten as well, because that's going to stop the lower ribs from moving. So it's just a real sense of deep center of the body around the spine and the lower back, just being gently corseted here so that the diaphragm can still work and move out the lower ribs. So you're feeling that. And then if we move the hands up a little bit to the sides of the body, so we're above the lower ribs now. If that's uncomfortable, you can just cross your arms a little bit and feel the outside of the mid rib cage with the fingertips, whatever suits you. And we'll do this one with the eyes closed. So still keeping this drawn in a little bit. And then you're going to begin your in-breath and notice the lower ribs being pushed out. And then you're just going to extend that in-breath until you feel a sense of lift in this mid part of the rib cage. And then as you exhale, you'll notice the rib cage sinking back down in, and then these floating ribs move in as well. So do that a few more times and see if you can really notice the transition. It's about halfway through your inhale where the diaphragm has given you as much air, lung capacity, it's drawn in as much air as it can. And now the external intercostals are beginning to lift the rib cage to create that additional capacity through your longer, deeper inhale. And then just release the hands for a moment. So you realize I'm just really teaching you the 3-part breath, but breaking it down a little bit into some anatomy. If you didn't feel that, or it wasn't as defined in your mind, I would just suggest do that a little bit in your own practice, because once you've noticed it, you kind of wonder why you never noticed it before. This very distinct shift of this feeling, and then suddenly it goes into a lifting and expanding feeling as a whole different set of muscles kicks in to extend the breath. And this is a very efficient way. The body is always super efficient and intelligent. So it just wants to use the diaphragm as its main muscle of breathing. And it's only when you need to run or exercise or lift heavy objects, when you need more oxygen in your body, that it's going to kick in the external intercostals to give you that additional capacity. And you'll know the final trick that the body has is that it can contract some neck muscles to lift the top rib and the collarbones to give you another little bit of additional capacity right at the top of the lungs. So we'll just feel that by elbows in, fingertips on the collarbones, and then a really long, smooth inhale, feeling first the expansion of the lower ribs from the diaphragm, then the lifting of the mid ribs from the external intercostals, and then right at the end, last 10 or 15% of your breath, you'll notice the neck muscles contract and you'll feel the collarbones lifting slightly. And when you release that very big breath, you'll feel the collarbones sink down, the rib cage move in, the lower ribs soften in as well. Let's do 2 more of those. And then release the hands. And you're accessing so much additional lung capacity there that it's really common to drop your breathing rate to 2 or 3 breaths a minute when doing that practice. So that's the 3-part breath as I would teach it. That is diaphragmatic, thoracic, clavicular breathing, and when put together would be the full yogic breath. So we're going to do that 1 more time now, but with just a hand mudra to support it. So just keep your eyes closed for a moment. As we begin the inhale, the separation of the hands represents the moving out of the lower ribs, the diaphragm. As soon as you feel the external intercostals begin to lift the rib cage, you just turn the palms to indicate that upward lift. And then at the end of the inhale, when you feel the collarbones lift, we just raise the fingertips. And then as we exhale, collarbones drop down. And then the rib cage, upper ribs move in. And as we complete the exhale, the palms coming back together. So we'll do that for 5 breaths at your own pace. And when you've completed your 5th breath, release the hands, keep the eyes closed, just take a moment to notice the effect of that on the practice, perhaps both energizing and calming. And the use of the hand movements really helps to focus the mind and steady the mind. By the way, the lesson plan for this session is going to be made available to you, so please don't feel you have to disrupt your practice by writing anything down. So we're just going to move on to our practice in a moment, but first let's just develop the Samavritti rhythm, because we're going to use that throughout the practice. So I want you to find now the count that's going to work for you. Although, as I said earlier, the seated count is usually a little bit longer than the one that happens when we're doing breath and movement. And at certain points in the practice, I will use the chime track. So we'll all try to use the 6-6-6 rhythm for that. And you can see how that works for you, and let me know at the end how that worked for you. So have the hands in any comfortable position for you. If you like to take a mudra, then please do. And then as you breathe in, silently counting the in-breath. And as you breathe out, using the same count for your exhale. So probably starting with a count of around about 4. Inhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale, 1, 2, 3, 4. And if that's really comfortable for you, moving on to a count of 5. Inhaling for 5. Exhaling for 5. And for the count of 6, I'm going to put on the chime track as a little preview to how we'll use it later. And it also gives you the certainty that you are, because you may be counting slightly quicker than one count per second. So these 2 chimes that you'll hear in a second are exactly 6 seconds apart. And there's a high tone and a low tone. We're just going to spend about a minute tuning our breath to this Samavritti ratio, which is a breathing technique called coherent breathing. That is meant to be the in-breath tone. And that low tone, which may be a little more difficult to hear, is the out-breath. And then just for a few more breaths, if you were feeling like the chimes were coming rather quickly, just allow yourself to move on a little bit, to stretch the breath a little bit further, moving on to a count of 7 or 8 for inhale and exhale, silently counting, and just finding that Samavritti ratio that absolutely suits your breath and how you are today. And then at the end of the next exhale, blinking open the eyes. Just noticing how you feel. If you got to 8 is a rhythm of 3.5 breaths per minute. So even that is not quite as slow as you might find if you really went for the full yogic breath as a seated practice. So we're going to start to move the body now. Again, just staying in the chair for a little bit longer and then we'll be down on the mat. So bring the hands together in front of the heart. And then as you breathe in, just sticking with the equal breath all through this class. So if you're not exactly in time with me, it doesn't matter. Very simple practice of breathing in, relaxing the shoulders, feeling the shoulders moving back and sliding down the back as the palms separate, and exhaling, bringing the palms together. And trying to find this absolute match between your arm movement and your breath, with your breath being in charge of the arms. And then the next time the hands come together, release the arms away from the body, just slightly in front of the hips, palms facing up. And again, the shoulders need to stay relaxed here. And then as you breathe in, you're going to float the arms up, but keep the shoulders down. If you feel the shoulders start to rise, then don't take the arms any higher than that. So you could be here, here, or here. And at the end of the inhale, we're going to turn the palms and exhale, float the arms down. At the end of the exhale, turning the palms, breathing in, staying with your equal breath, equal length breath on inhale and exhale. And using this simple action of turning the palms at the end of the inhale to really signal the turning point of the breath, the point at which the in-breath has reached its natural conclusion, and when the out-breath has been completely released. And sometimes when we are working with the NHS patients, exploring the breath, we don't do any retentions with them, but we do explore these turning points and these little pauses at the end of the in-breath and the out-breath to help them really define the landscape, the parameters of their breath. And then give the arms a shake, and we're going to do a little bit of shrugging the shoulders. So taking the shoulders forward and up as you breathe in, back and down. As you breathe out, just 2 front to back, and then 1 coming in the opposite direction. And then take your right arm away from the body. I'm not going to mirror, I'm just going to use my right arm. And breathing in, float the arm up, and then breathing out, extending into a side stretch. And if you want to hold the chair, if you're in a chair with the other hand, you can for support. As you breathe in, coming back up, turn the palm, exhale, lower. Turn the left arm out as you inhale, take the arm up, comfortable place, exhale, side stretch the left side. Inhale, coming up, exhale, arm low. We're going to do that once more to each side. Even though some of the movements are small, just having the focus to keep the same length of inhale and exhale. And next time your left arm comes down, give the shoulders a little shake, give the arms a shake. Bring the fingertips onto the tops of the shoulders. And we're doing a slightly bigger movement. This time the whole of the shoulder girdle as well as the arm and shoulder socket are engaged. So again, if you've got any shoulder issues, just work within your pain-free range of motion and really put the emphasis on finding space and softness here as you breathe and move. And at the end of the next exhale, just release from that one. Bring the palms back together. We're doing a little bit of a twist. So making the spine as tall as you can, thinking of head over heart over hips. And then as you exhale, turning clockwise to the right, just turning as far as you can and simply releasing the hands down. So no leverage, not pressing into the thigh or grabbing the chair, just turning a natural amount with the shoulders and then turning the head as far around as you can, letting the neck take up its range of movement in terms of twist. And as you breathe in, thinking about lengthening up on the inhale and softening a little bit deeper into the twist on the out breath. And then leaving the shoulders exactly where they are, just turn the head back into the center of the room. So now the shoulders are trying to continue to rotate clockwise and the head is going anti-clockwise. And these two opposite directions are very, very useful, very helpful in terms of releasing any stiffness in the spine. And then breathing in, coming back to center, and breathing out around to the left, turning the shoulders and the head to begin with. Inhale, lengthening up, exhale, releasing a little bit more into the twist. And then on your next inhale, turning the head, keeping the back of the neck long and enjoying that opposite directional twist. Still inhaling up, exhale, releasing in two directions. And then inhale, coming back to center, exhale, take the hands on the thighs and do a simple counter pose forwards over the straight spine, over the thighs. And then inhale, coming up, release the hands down. If you've got a kind of chair where it's easy to grab hold of something, you can. So we're just looking to come into our first back bend, but we're only trying to back bend the thoracic spine. So we're keeping the lumbar spine just in its natural curve. We're just supporting that from the front. We're not going to do anything with the head, so eyes forwards, but we are going to try to draw the shoulder blades back and down and feel as if you're stretching across the sternum, across the pec muscles at the front, and sinking the spine in between the shoulder blades at the back. So just setting an intention at the beginning of the class that the thoracic spine is half the spine. It's the spine with the outward curve. It's the one that causes all the problems if it gets stiff in terms of posture, typically as we would get older. And mobilizing that area of the back in back bends should be our main focus really at all times. That's what I do in my teaching. And then on an exhale, releasing, and this time hands coming forwards, and we're going to spend a little bit longer in this forward bend. So come forward as far as is comfortable for you, tuck the chin in, let the crown of the head hang forwards. So you're using the weight of the head to stretch out the back of the neck. And if you can keep the hips rooting back into the chair, this is a very space-giving practice, a very space-giving forward bend for the lower back, really good for people with problems in that area. You've taken the lower back out of gravity and now you're giving some space between those 5 lumbar vertebrae. And take some easy breaths here, keeping with your Samavritti ratio. And then use the hands to come back up. Bring the hands in front of the heart. I know you're probably itching to get out of the chair, but I promise you this is the last one for those who are desperate to get onto the mat. So breathing in, we're going to draw the arms into this cactus arm position, which is, again, finding the release in that thoracic spine. And then as you exhale, take the palms onto the thighs and come into that little forward bend we just did. Breathing in, come halfway up. And as you come halfway up, see if you can hover the hands. So if you come halfway up and hover the hands, you'll feel all the back muscles engaging. I'll just show you that from the side. So that was position 2. And then position 3 is here, inhale. So this is to strengthen all the erector spinae muscles, which are often weak in our students. And again, having strong strength in the back there really is a preventative measure for back pain going forwards. So that was inhale, and then exhale, folding forward once more. There are loads of videos of this sequence on YouTube. So again, it's on the lesson plan as well. Don't feel you have to memorize it. Opening out into the back bend, exhale, palms together. Breathing in, reaching up. And you can come here, or really go for a full stretch. And exhale into a side stretch. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, hands in front of the heart. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale to the other side. Inhale, reaching up, and exhale, hands in front of the heart. So we're going to do that one with the chime track. It's always a little bit hit and miss for me to get the sound of the chimes, the right volume to that you can hear me and the chimes, but we'll give it a go. If it's not working, feel free to unmute and I'll either turn them up or turn them down. But my trick is, when we get going in a second, is that I'll try and speak only between the chimes. So we're going to do one more of this sequence. So this is the seated sun salutation we teach the NHS patients. And after this one, we're going to come up and do the same sequence, but from standing. Breathing in. Breathing out and forward fold. Breathing in, come halfway up, hover the hands if you want to. Exhale, forward fold. Inhale, come up, open the spine. Exhale, palms together. Inhale, reaching up. Exhale, side stretch. Inhale, back to center. Exhale, hands to heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, side stretch to the other side. Inhale to center. Exhale, hands in front of the heart. Of course, continue in the chair if you would like to. If you're able to come up to standing. We're going to do 3 more. We'll start together. One of the nice things about doing this inclusive sun salutation with the chimes is that in a group class, when we get those back again, the students get this experience of one breath and everybody breathing and moving together. So be really, really stable in the feet hip width apart or a tiny bit wider, hands in front of the heart. Just pause for a moment. Feel the touch of the soles of the feet. Just lift the toes and widen them a little bit. And exhale, release. Just lift the heels slightly. Exhale, release, and circle the hips to find that connection to the ground through the soles of the feet. Okay, we're going to go into it now. Breathing in. As you breathe out, bend the knees, bring the hands onto the thighs and just come level with the floor. Inhale, halfway up. Hover the hands if you want to. Exhale, go a little deeper if there's no reason for you not to take head below heart. Inhale, flatten the back, come up. Exhale, palms together. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, side stretch. Inhale, come up. Exhale, hands to heart. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, side stretch. Inhale, reach up. Exhale, hands to heart. Just pausing for a second. We will do two more, and I won't speak for the last two, just to give you more of an experience. So the NHS patients do this they learn this they do it every week for 10 weeks. It's the same set of physical practices every week. So by weeks 7, 8, 9, 10, they know it really well. And in weeks 8, 9, and 10, they do 5 rounds with the chime track, either in the chair or standing. And what we've taught them, I just want to highlight for you, is that at the beginning, when you're opening up, so coming down to here, bending the knees, notice the back remains flat, and it's just a tucking in of the chin. And then there's the back strengthener coming up, and you can hover the hands for a bit more back strengthening if you want. And then some of them, because we do get a very mixed range of ability and different health conditions, those who could go into a full forward bend there, but many of them are just doing a little bit of this. So they're maintaining head level with heart, but they're still stretching the back of the legs, and it remains safe. And then really importantly, to come up, there's another bend in the knees, almost coming into the back strengthening, so that as you come up, we're not coming up like this, which is just has more hazards. I'm not saying that should never be taught, but in terms of what we're trying to achieve and the way that I would teach, this position coming out with a neutral spine is really safe for the back, and it strengthens the back. So have a go at doing that if you don't normally do that. So we're going to do 2 more rounds in starting position, and we'll start on the next chime. And this time, as you come back to your starting position, just release the hands. If you're happy to close the eyes, just close the eyes and check in with how you feel after that breath and movement practice using the coherent breathing rhythm of 6-6, 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out, which is a 5 breath per minute breathing rate. And we're going to use the chime track just one more time, because I don't want to give you too much of it, because I know some yoga teachers feel a little bit boxed in by the fact the chimes are so close together. And not everybody loves the sound of the chimes. You can use a metronome from a metronome app, which are free to download on your smartphone if you just prefer a nice wooden tick-tock every 6 seconds. But we're going to do the Warrior 1 and Warrior 2 that we teach the NHS patients. As you might imagine, if I was teaching a fuller versions of Warrior, there'd be a lot of alignment issues, but we do a very gentle version. Because of your knowledge base, I'm confident that you'll be fine with this. I'm not actually teaching this in my regular community classes over Zoom because of the alignment issues and potential risks. So we're going to start with the feet hip width apart or a tiny bit wider, and we're going to step the right leg forward, but really quite a contained stride. And all you want to do in terms of the back foot is feel a gentle stretch through the calf of the left leg and a sense of lengthening or stretch through the front of the left hip here. And the leg is straight, both legs are straight, and what we'll be doing is, as we breathe in, we're just giving a really subtle bend of the right knee. And because of this short stride and the fact that we're feeling the stretch in the right position, that knee will be tracking the toes, but you could look down and check that. And the thing is just to make sure that you're not overdoing it. Because of the narrow stride, you could easily take the knee beyond the ankle. So that would be the main thing. It's just a little baby knee bend, but nevertheless, that gives you the strength work around the right thigh and around the knee joint, which is helpful. And then we bring the palms together, and the practice goes like this. It's just like that first movement we did in the chair. Separate the palms as you breathe in, let that knee bend, and as you breathe out, drawing the palms together and straightening the leg. So just have a little go at that. And we're still using our Samavritti breathing. We're still inhaling and exhaling at a balanced and equal rhythm. So let's just continue with the right leg and do 5 more with the chimes. At the end of that 5th one, stepping back, giving the arms and the legs a little shake. And then when you're ready, stepping the left leg forwards. So I go into this alignment and the difference between this and Warrior 2 and some other poses in that free course. The main thing is that back leg. It really doesn't turn out. The foot's turned out 1 centimetre or 2 at most. and that's what creates the openings that we want here and maintains a safe alignment. As soon as you start to see that, it's a disaster. And I go into the reasons why on that free course you might want to do at some point. So left leg. At the end of the one you're on, again, just releasing back to Tadasana. And again, just noticing how you feel. Give the shoulders a shrug. So we're gonna do Warrior 2, and this one is a little more complicated, but I'm confident you'll be able to do this safely. So again, separating the feet, but not too wide. These are all really contained in terms of the stretching. So just feeling a gentle stretch now down the inside of both legs. Keeping the hands on the hips so the hips don't turn as we soften the right knee and just open the right hip. And if you look down over that right leg, you only really want to turn that foot out about 70 degrees. Some of our patients are so stiff, it's more like 60 degrees. Now, if you were to take what used to be a common alignment cue of turning the foot out 90 degrees and then bend the knee, nearly everybody in your class will not have 90 degrees of turnout in the hip. And therefore, as they bend the knee, there'll be a chronic misalignment between the knee and the foot, usually expressed by the knee being on the inside of the foot, and therefore there's no integrity of weight bearing through this joint. So you just need to bend that knee just a little bit and just check that the center of the kneecap as you bend it is going over the second toe. And again, this knee is not going beyond the ankle, and the spine staying upright. So once you've got that position, you can safely bend on the inhale and straighten on exhale. The palms are coming together, and I'll just show you this. So as we breathe in, we're going to extend the arms, we're going to let the knee bend, we're going to turn the head and look to the right. And then on the exhale chime, take that into reverse. And this one, probably more than any of the others, feels more like doing Tai Chi. If you've done that, it really feels like, or Qigong, it feels like an energy moving practice. The physicality is not important. It's about the grace of movement, the expansion through the inhale, and then the drawing of breath and energy on the contraction of out breath. So stay in position. We'll do 5, up to 5 on this right side. The end of the 5th one, turn that right foot in, bring the feet together, release for a moment. Notice the sensation in that right hip. Completely different sensations from the Warrior 1 because of our precision of maintaining two completely separate alignments, and therefore we're working holistically on the body and not blurring warrior one and warrior two into a kind of blancmange of ineffective alignment. So separating the feet, find that turnout of the leg. Really the thigh and the knee are the guru for the foot in this pose, and wherever the knee gets to without the hips turning is where the foot needs to line up to. Turning the foot out 90 degrees really makes no sense. Okay, on the next in-breath chime. At the end of that one, turning the foot in, bringing the heels and feet together, and closing your eyes for a moment, just noticing the effects of that practice on the body and the mind. And then we're going to move down onto the floor. So we're just going to wind down, but also to stretch some areas of the body we haven't used yet. Actually, before we wind down, I'm having to miss a couple of things out. There's a lunge coming up now on the lesson plan if you get it afterwards. And I just wanted to show you how I've been teaching the lunge. So you don't need to do this, but if you want to, you can. So I've been using the chair for the lunge. This is opening the same set of muscles and tissues that you've just opened in that warrior one, but slightly more deeply. And the lunge is a really important position, in my opinion, because it's the most effective way of counterposing the shortening that people we teach experience from a lot of chair sitting. So it really opens up the hip flexor and the front of the hip one at a time. And if you use a chair, you can get into a really good position just using the body weight, and you've got no knee issues. Whereas all the versions of lunge down on the floor will involve some weight bearing through the knee. I always pad the knee, but so this is absolutely fine, but this is better. So if you just did that on one side, maybe just do that briefly on the other to feel how that is. This chair's got special non-slip grips on the bottom, but you'd either need that or have the chair against the wall or something like that. So maybe have a little play with that in your home practice. I do a lunge at least every single day. So we're missing that little bit out, and we've also missed out. Oh, I'm going to put it back in. Sorry, I just can't teach a class without a balance. Sorry if you've gone down. I just want to share with you the balance that I mainly teach at the moment, that we teach to the NHS patients. So I know this balance as the heron, but I always teach it dynamically, particularly in the first 7 weeks of the 10-week program. So all I'm doing is, as the arms come out with the in-breath, the knee bends and the weight is shifted from foot to foot. Of course, if you've got more balance, if you're steady, then come right up onto the toes of the non-standing leg, but no weight going there at all, or even lifting and lowering with the breath. And for those students of ours who are less stable on their feet, of course, back of the chair is ideal for this one, or a wall. I kind of, over the years, I've got a little bit fed up with doing lots of good work in class for students and then, you know, trying to take them into a tree pose and seeing them wobbling, becoming increasingly frustrated and kind of undoing a lot of the calm and steadiness that they may have cultivated. If you're just breathing in and lifting for one breath, of course you might wobble, but you're about to put the leg down. You're still working on your balance, but you're not creating a barrier or a potential problem for students. So I'm really keen on those dynamic balances. Okay, now we will come down to the mat. If you want to just lie down for a second with the knees bent, we're going to be using the belt shortly. So just have that beside you. But I just want you to think about the head for a moment. Notice that I've got quite a thick blanket, and I consider, after more than 20 years of yoga practice, that, you know, my spine is reasonably flexible. But if I don't have anything and I put my head on the back of the floor, then my chin is higher than my forehead. And if I take the fingertips to the back of the neck, I can feel that the neck is an extension, it's not in a neutral place. Now, if you combine that with somebody who's got quite a stiff upper back, they're going to be like this. And, you know, I really have to close my eyes if I'm in a yoga class where a student is experiencing that and the teacher's not doing anything about it. So you do need that block or blanket, enough support to bring the forehead up to level with the chin, or even slightly higher, to take that neck into a very slight flexion. So, or, you know, really when we want it neutral, we want as much space in the neck, because these people are used to walking around, you know, with compression in the back of the neck, and you're giving them the opportunity out of gravity to really extend. So this is a practice in itself, finding the right space and being able to then move the head from side to side and feel that space in the neck. Really, really important in my view. So let's bring the knees in. I might more usually start the class with something like this, but, you know, we always do slightly different things for these bigger events for teachers. So we've actually kind of using our double leg Apanasana as a winding down pose. And then just a little bit of drawing in on exhale, holding the shin or the thigh or even a belt here. And if you want to stretch out that left leg for a couple of breaths, feel free to do that. Inhaling, giving the space for the breath, exhaling, coming in, and then changing sides. Still using your Samavritti ratio. And then sliding the leg straight, taking both arms overhead or just wherever is comfortable, which could be here or here or here, and having a long stretch, putting that length back into the spine. And then taking the arms out at shoulder height, bringing the legs back into semi-supine, slightly tucking the tailbone so the lower back is flat, soft engagement through the abdominals just to support the length in the spine. And then a really easy moving in and out of our JP supine twist with the breath, inhaling to center, exhaling, knees one way, head the other. I'm just doing a really gentle version with the feet on the floor and the feet hip width apart. If you want to do stronger versions, legs together, even in over the chest, if that's what you need, and it's safe for you to do so, feel free to do that. Again, inhaling for your count, whatever it is, exhaling for your Samavritti rhythm. Don't need to count all the way through the class, you just revisit the count every now and then to re-establish balance in the breath if you have that sense that you may have lost that a little bit. And then the next time the knees come up from the left, draw the knees in, take another little rock from side to side to release the back. And then one hand on each knee and circling into the hips, half a circle for an inhale, and the exhale circle half to find your full range of motion in the hips. And then circling around in the other direction. And then feet are flat on the floor, taking the belt around the right foot. Use both strands of the belt, one in each hand. Wrap the belt once around the hand so you're not having to grip too tightly. Start with the knee bent, foot flat on the floor, and this real sensation of the back of the pelvis being flat on the floor. And as you breathe in, exaggerate the bend in the knee. And as you breathe out, allow the leg to come into an appropriate stretch for you, which might not be fully straight, or it could be straight and vertical, or it could even be straight and tracking in a little bit. So inhale, release the right hamstring, soften the leg. Exhale, coming into the stretch. Are the shoulders back and down? Are the shoulder blades flat against the floor? Just guarding against any unwanted tension creeping into the body. So that going into the physiology of this movement, just notice the way in which the hamstring muscle is able to soften and relax during the inhale and is only being stretched on the exhale. And then imagine how inclusive and reassuring that is for those of our students, many of them with very tight hamstrings, who find forward bends a real challenge and they can be a frustrating experience. And then on the next exhale, we're just going to hold for 3 breaths, a sustainable stretch that isn't putting a strain on the body, that isn't interrupting our breath. And using the belt to feel as if you're really rooting that leg, the head of the femur, deep into the hip socket and down through the flat back of the pelvis into the ground. And as you exhale, feeling the space being created down the back of the leg, but not just in the muscle we tend to focus on because we feel the sensation there, but feeling a sense of space all the way from this right hip and right sit bone down through the knee joint and to the heel of the right foot. And then on your next inhale, let the knee bend, release the belt for a moment, take the right leg down, slide both legs straight, relax them, observe the difference in sensation between the right leg and the left leg. Perhaps noticing also the right hip feeling more released than the left. And then coming back into semi-supine with the right leg, taking the belt around the left. And working in exactly the same way, breathing in, exhaling, Samavritti ratio into your stretch. Breathing in, breathing out. And on this next exhale, moving into the static form of the stretch. Again, no strain, no shaking of the muscle, no interference with the breath. Shoulders and arms relaxed, elbows well bent, plenty of belt between you and the foot. Deepening forward bends is all about dissolving resistance in the muscle. And that dissolving takes place on the exhale. So we think about that rather than deepening a stretch, more about deepening, lessening resistance, dissolving resistance. That can help a little. And then breathing in, bend the left leg, release that leg, slide both legs straight. Notice the sensations now in both legs. And then coming back into semi-supine, sliding away any support under the back of the head. You might, with some students, actually place some support, a blanket just under the shoulders, like a mini shoulder stand support. Again, I'm a little bit against the clock now, so there's more of a lead into this, but we're just going to come into a really gentle, dynamic version of Dvipada, of Setu Bandhasana, shoulder bow, whatever you used to calling it. We're just beginning with a little bit of pelvic tilting. So as you exhale, flattening the back against the floor and setting that intention of doing this pose with a really long and neutral lower back. As you breathe in, just softening the abdomen slightly, feeling the lumbar curve reappear, but in a very subtle way. Exhale, flattening it to the floor. Inhale and exhale. And now keeping the lower back flat on the floor during inhale and exhale, arms beside the body, breathing in, lifting the pelvis just about halfway, and exhale, rolling the spine down, vertebra by vertebra, back of the pelvis and sacrum last of all. And then just working into that a few more times, depending on your own spine, your own needs. And if you are used to working more strongly, you want to come up a little higher, that's absolutely fine. Feel free to do that. If you like to take the arms overhead as you lift the pelvis, feel free to do that as well. So 2 more in your own time. And at the end of the last one, drawing the knees in, rocking from side to side. And the inversion that I've been using during lockdown and on Zoom. I'm just going to show you that. Feel free to practice it with me if you've got your chair handy at the end of the mat. So again, head is supported to give a neutral neck, a yoga block under the pelvis, the lower legs resting on the chair. I would definitely not attempt to teach a pose like shoulder stand over Zoom. Obviously massively hazardous, unless you're doing a version with a small group and you're watching them and you know them well. Maybe that would be a circumstance, but I think I would still be hesitant about doing that. We could talk about that afterwards. So just take a few breaths here. Take a moment with the eyes closed if you're okay with that, or a soft gaze up towards the ceiling to release the breath from its Samavritti rhythm, to begin to release the body and to notice how you're feeling, notice the effects of the practice in terms of that nourishment. And I'll talk a little bit about the resilience aspect in the final breathing practice. If you've got yourself really comfortable here, you could start your relaxation and spend a bit longer here, or if you're ready to come down and come into any relaxation pose that you would like to take, absolutely fine. I don't mind what you do there. Please feel free to do that. I'm going to take a relaxation that's not going to be super long just because of time restrictions. So from your comfortable position for relaxation, take a moment to bring comfort into the body, releasing the body down to the mat. And we're going to use a little bit of visualization and breath work to release the body. And the way this one will work is that we're going to imagine that the breath is coming up from the ground into a part of the body. And then as we exhale, imagine we're releasing that part of the body down to the ground. So bringing your awareness to the right foot, and as you breathe in, breathing up from the ground into the right foot. And as you breathe out, breathing down to the ground from the right foot and allowing the right foot to relax. Awareness to the lower leg, the calf muscles, breathing in up from the ground, exhaling back down to the ground. Allow the lower leg to relax. Awareness to the right knee, breathing up from the ground into the right knee. Exhale down to the ground. Allow the right knee to soften and release. Awareness to the right thigh. Inhale up from the ground. Exhale down to the ground. Soften and release. Be aware of the whole of the right leg. Inhale up from the ground. Exhale down to the ground. Releasing, softening the whole of the right leg. Whole of the right leg, inhale up from the ground. Exhale down to the ground. Leave the right leg in its released state and move your awareness to the left foot. Inhale up from the ground. Exhale, release the left foot down to the ground. Inhale, lower leg and calf up from the ground. Exhale, down to the ground. Left knee, inhale up from the ground. Exhale, down to the ground. Left thigh, inhale up from the ground. Exhale, back down to the ground. The whole of the left leg, inhale up from the ground. Exhale, down to the ground, soften and release. Inhale up from the ground. Exhale, down to the ground. Allow the left leg to stay in its release state. Move your focus to the right hand. If possible, have the palm facing upwards. Inhale, breathing up from the ground into the right hand. Exhale, back down to the ground. Right hand softens and releases. Right forearm, inhale up from the ground. Exhale, back down to the ground. Right elbow, inhale up from the ground. Exhale, back down to the ground. Right upper arm, inhale up from the ground. Exhale, down to the ground. Right shoulder, inhale up from the ground. Exhale, back down to the ground. The whole of the right arm and right shoulder, inhale up from the ground. Exhale down to the ground, soften and release. Inhale, exhale, soften and release. Leave the right arm and right shoulder in its relaxed state. Move your awareness to the left hand. Inhale up from the ground. Exhale down to the ground. Left forearm, inhale up from the ground. Exhale down to the ground. Left elbow, inhale. Exhale. Left upper arm, inhale. Exhale. Left shoulder, inhale up from the ground. Exhale down to the ground. The whole of the left arm and left shoulder. Inhale up from the ground. Exhale, soften and release down to the ground. Leave both arms and both legs in their relaxed state. Move your awareness to the hips and the abdomen and the lower back. Inhale up from the ground. Exhale back down to the ground. Soften and release. Inhale up from the ground. Exhale down to the ground. Move your awareness to the rib cage, the chest, the heart, the lungs. Inhale, breathe up from the ground. Exhale, back down to the ground. Soften the chest, the upper back. Awareness to the tops of the shoulders and the neck. Inhale up from the ground. Exhale back down to the ground. Soften and release. Awareness to the head and the face, back of the head, sides of the head, the crown of the head. Inhale up from the ground. Exhale back down to the ground. Soften, release. Be aware of the whole of your body. And as you breathe in, breathe up from the ground into the whole of your body. And as you exhale, breathe back down to the ground and allow the whole of your body to soften and release. And then for the last few moments of this relaxation, release the image of breathing up and down from the ground. Just be in stillness and softness. Allow yourself this time of self-care and nurturing. And now deepen the breath. Move the fingers and toes, reconnect to your body and stretch in any way that feels good. And if you're lying on your back with the legs straight, bending the knees, rolling onto your side. We're going to come up to sitting for a final breathing practice. So you could sit cross-legged on the floor if that's what you'd like to do, or you could come back into the chair, which is what I often do with my classes now. And just hold on to the stillness and softness of the relaxation. And when you're in position, either closing the eyes or having a soft gaze forward and down, and begin to tune back into your Samavritti ratio. inhaling and exhaling. And we're going to do just about a minute of breathing with the chimes, which will be a nice mid-range 6/6 rhythm. But I know that will be a little bit quick for you. So after a minute, you can then extend your ratio to 7 or 8 or wherever you feel comfortable. Inhale. Exhale. Continue with your Samavritti rhythm and just give yourself the opportunity to expand and lengthen the breath further if that would be a good practice for you. And then at the end of the next exhale, just release your breath back into its natural rhythm. Take a final check-in with yourself. And then when you're ready, blinking, open the eyes. Thanks very much for joining me for the practice.